first thing I thought about when I woke up wasn't what I wanted for breakfast or how well I'd slept. It was the fact that Dante Blackwell had a board meeting at 9 a.m. and his favorite charcoal suit was still at the dry cleaners. My alarm hadn't even gone off yet. But my brain was already working through their schedules, ticking off boxes and anticipating problems before they even happened. I lay there in the dark for a minute, staring at the ceiling and trying to remember the last time I woke up and thought about something that belonged to me. I couldn't remember. My life had become a series of tasks designed to make 3 other people's lives easier. Not one person. 3. My name is Adrian Moss. I'm a 27-year-old male Omega, and I've been the executive assistant to the Blackwell Triplets for 9 years. 9 years of making sure Dante's presentations were perfect, Luca's contracts were airtight, and Soren's client meetings ran smoothly. 9 years of being so good at my job that I'd completely forgotten who I was without it. I got out of bed and started my routine. It was the same every single day, the kind of routine that had become so automatic I could do it half asleep, which was good because I usually was half asleep. Shower first. Hot water that I couldn't quite enjoy because my brain was already running through the day's schedule. Dante had the board meeting at 9. Luca had the Morrison contract negotiation at 10:30. Soren had 3 client calls between 2 and 5. I needed to prep materials for all of it. I dried off and looked at myself in the mirror. When had I gotten so thin? My cheekbones were sharper than they used to be. There were permanent shadows under my eyes that concealer couldn't quite hide anymore. I looked like someone who was slowly disappearing. I pushed the thought away and reached for my clothes. A suit that looked professional but didn't stand out. That was the key. I needed to look put together enough that I reflected well on the Blackwells, but not so distinctive that anyone would actually notice me. Gray suit, white shirt, navy tie. The same thing I wore every day with minor variations. I took my suppressants with a glass of water. Industrial-strength omega suppressants that cost a fortune but were absolutely necessary. I couldn't afford to have my biology interfere with work. Couldn't afford to go into heat unexpectedly. Couldn't afford to let my pheromones slip and distract 3 powerful alphas from their jobs. The pills were bitter. I'd been taking them for so long that I barely tasted them anymore. They kept my scent muted, kept my heat suppressed completely, kept me professional and controlled, kept me invisible. Finally, I checked my phone. 11 messages. No, 12. Another one had just come in while I was in the shower. 4 from Dante about the board meeting. He wanted the revised projections, the comparison charts, the backup data in case anyone challenged his numbers. He wanted everything printed and organized in the exact order he'd present it. He wanted contingency plans for 3 different scenarios. 5 from Luca about a contract dispute that had come up overnight. The other party was trying to renegotiate terms they'd already agreed to. Luca needed precedent cases, legal opinions, and a strategy session before his 10:30 meeting. He also wanted me to pull the original negotiation notes from 6 months ago. 2 from Soren asking if I'd confirmed his lunch with the Japanese investors. He'd already asked me this yesterday, but he always double-checked everything. Soren worried more than his brothers, needed more reassurance that things were handled. 1 more from Dante asking if I'd eaten breakfast yet. All sent between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. They never slept, which meant I barely slept. I'd gotten maybe 4 hours last night. That was actually better than usual. Most nights I got 3, maybe 3.5. There was always something else to do. Always another email to answer, always another crisis to manage. I responded to each message as I got dressed, told Dante the materials were ready, told Luca I'd have the files on his desk by 8, told Soren yes, the reservation was confirmed, and yes, I'd arranged for the car, and yes, I'd briefed the restaurant about their dietary restrictions, told Dante I'd grab something at the office. Another lie. I'd probably forget to eat until someone forced food in front of me. By 7:15, I was in my car heading across town. The city was just starting to wake up. Other people were heading to jobs they'd leave at 5 or 6 p.m. They'd go home, have dinner, watch TV, sleep actual full nights. I couldn't remember what that felt like. By 7:30, I was at the dry cleaners. The owner knew me by name. "Morning, Adrian," she said. "The Blackwell suits?" "All 3, I confirmed. Dante's charcoal, Luca's navy, Soren's gray. I knew their sizes by heart, knew which cuts they preferred, knew that Dante liked his shirts starched crisp and Luca hated starch and Soren didn't care as long as the collar was perfect. I'd been picking up their dry cleaning for 9 years. The owner probably thought I was their valet. I paid, hung the suits carefully in my car, and drove to the coffee shop. I didn't have to place the order. The barista started making 3 black coffees. Dante liked his bitter. Luca took 1 sugar. Soren wanted 2 and a green tea for me. I stood waiting and realized I didn't even like green tea. I just ordered it because it was fast and kept me awake. When had I stopped having preferences? When had I stopped being a person with likes and dislikes and started being a function that served 3 alphas? When I got to Blackwell Industries, the building was mostly empty. The cleaning crew was finishing up and a few early birds were trickling in, but the executive floor would be deserted for at least another hour. I took the private elevator up, bypassed my own desk, and went into their shared office. The Blackwell triplets ran their empire from one massive corner office with 3 desks arranged in a triangle. It was unconventional, but it worked for them. They liked being able to see each other, to communicate with glances and gestures that only siblings understood. I started my setup routine. I hung Dante's suit in his personal closet, making sure it faced the right direction so he could grab it easily. I placed his coffee exactly 3 inches from the edge of his desk, handle at 90 degrees so his right hand could reach it naturally. I laid out his presentation materials in the exact order he'd present them. Title slide on top, followed by the quarterly overview, then the detailed projections, then the comparison charts. I added sticky notes to 3 pages where I'd found minor errors in the data, nothing that would derail the presentation, but things he'd want to correct. I checked his pen holder. He preferred the Mont Blanc for important meetings. It was there. I adjusted his chair height. He'd been complaining about neck pain last week, which meant his monitor was too low. I raised it 1/2 inch. Then I moved to Luca's desk. His navy suit went in his closet. His coffee, 1 sugar, stirred exactly 15 times, went on its coaster. He'd ruined his desk with a coffee ring once and never let me forget to use coasters. I pulled up the Morrison contract files and organized them into 3 categories: original terms, disputed clauses, and precedent cases. I highlighted the sections that supported his negotiating position in yellow, the weak points in pink. I added a summary sheet on top with bullet points he could reference quickly. I restocked his supply of his favorite pens. He went through them like crazy, always clicking them when he was thinking. I noticed a photo on his desk was crooked. I straightened it. It was a picture of the 3 brothers at their college graduation, arms around each other, all of them smiling. They looked so young, so hopeful. They probably had no idea back then that they'd end up running an empire together, that they'd be working 16-hour days, making decisions that affected thousands of employees, carrying the weight of expectations that would crush most people. Finally, Soren's desk, gray suit in the closet, coffee with 2 sugars next to his tablet, meeting notes for each of his 3 client calls, organized in separate folders he liked, physical folders, said they helped him mentally shift between different clients. I updated his calendar, color-coding each commitment. Red for urgent, yellow for important, blue for routine. I added travel times between meetings, bathroom breaks, and 15-minute buffer zones because Soren needed decompression time between high-stress calls. I left a handwritten note reminding him to eat lunch. He'd forget otherwise. The office looked perfect. Everything in its place. Everything ready for them to walk in and start their day seamlessly. I'd been doing this for 9 years. I could do it in my sleep. But as I looked around their office, at the 3 desks forming their triangle of power, I realized I'd built them a world where they never had to think about the basics, never had to remember their own schedules or prep their own materials, or even pick up their own dry cleaning. I'd made myself indispensable, and in doing so, I'd become invisible. I sat at my desk outside their office and finally took a sip of my tea. It was already cold. I looked at the framed photo on my desk, me and my parents from 5 years ago. I looked so young in that picture. My face was fuller, my eyes brighter. Now, I looked hollowed out. I hadn't called my parents in 4 weeks. Every time I tried, one of the Blackwells would need something and the call would get pushed back. Around 8:15, I smelled them before I saw them. The elevator doors opened, and the scent hit me like a wave 3 distinct alpha pheromones mixing in the air. Dante smelled like winter mornings and dark coffee. Sharp, cold, commanding. Luca smelled like old leather and whiskey. Rich, intense, dangerously smooth. Soren smelled like sandalwood and rain. Warm, clean, deceptively gentle. Together, they were overwhelming. Even through my heavy-duty suppressants, I felt my omega instincts respond the urge to please, to serve, to make everything perfect for them. I hated that response. Hated how much my biology betrayed me. "Morning, Adrian," Dante said as he walked past. He never stopped, but I heard the exhaustion in his voice. "Good morning, Mr. Blackwell," I replied automatically. "Your suit is ready, the board members are confirmed for 9, and I've updated the quarterly projections based on last night's data." He paused at his door, glancing back at me. "Did you eat breakfast?" "I had tea." "That's not food, Adrian. I'll get something later," I lied. Luca was next, moving with that restless energy he always carried. "The Morrison contract? On your desk with the revisions highlighted. I flagged 4 clauses that need your attention." He grunted approval and disappeared into the office. Soren was last, always running slightly behind his brothers. He stopped at my desk, his warm sandalwood scent washing over me. "You look tired," he said softly. "I'm fine, Mr. Blackwell. When did you leave last night?" "Around midnight," I admitted. "Adrienne, you needed the Tokyo presentation finished. It's done. Uploaded and ready for your call at 3. Soren's expression flickered with something that might have been guilt, but he nodded and followed his brothers. I spent the next 4 hours in perpetual motion, answering phones, managing schedules, handling the 100 small crises that came up every day. The board meeting ran over. I had to reschedule Dante's lunch and push back Luca's contract negotiation and delay Soren's client call. Then Luca's negotiation fell apart and he needed me in the conference room taking notes for 3 hours straight. Then Soren's client was unhappy, and I spent an hour on the phone smoothing things over while simultaneously editing Dante's presentation for the London office. By 2 p.m., I was staring at my computer screen and the words were starting to blur together. My head was pounding. I reached for the aspirin in my drawer and realized the bottle was empty. I'd given the last of them to Luca last week when he had a migraine. "Adrian," I looked up to find Dante standing at my desk. "Can you review these projections? I need them verified before I send them to the board." "Of course, Mr. Blackwell." He handed me a folder that was easily 70 pages. "By when?" I asked. "End of day." It was already 2 p.m. End of day was 6. That gave me 4 hours to review complex financial projections while handling everything else. "I'll have them ready," I said. Dante studied me for a moment. "You really do look tired, Adrian." "I'm fine. You always say that." "Because it's always true." He didn't look convinced, but he went back to his office. I opened the folder and started reading. Numbers swam in front of my eyes. I'd been working for 13 hours straight, and my brain was starting to shut down. Around 4 p.m., I realized I hadn't eaten anything except that cold tea this morning. My hands were shaking slightly. I went to the break room to get water. I stood at the sink, watching it run over my hands, and felt that familiar hollowness settling into my chest. I had spent 9 years of my life making sure 3 alphas had everything they needed. I knew Dante's coffee order, and Luca's contract preferences, and Soren's client management style. But I couldn't remember the last time I'd done something for myself. I didn't have hobbies. I didn't have friends I saw regularly. I didn't even have a favorite restaurant because I never had time to go out. My entire existence had narrowed down to this building, this office, these 3 men. And I was disappearing. Not dramatically. Not all at once. Just slowly fading away until there was nothing left of Adrian Moss except the perfect assistant who made the Blackwell brothers' lives run smoothly. "Adrian, I need the Henderson files from last quarter." I turned to find Luca in the doorway. He looked as exhausted as I felt, his dark eyes shadowed. "I'll get them for you," I said. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I'm fine, Mr. Blackwell." "You keep saying that, but I'll have those files to you in 5 minutes." He frowned, but nodded. I went back to my desk and pulled up the files he needed, sent them to his email, went back to reviewing Dante's projections. At 6 p.m., I finished the last page. My vision was blurry and my head felt like it was splitting open, but the work was done. I walked into their office to return the folder. All 3 of them were still there, still working. Dante at his desk reviewing contracts, Luca on a phone call, Soren typing frantically. They looked up when I entered. "Projections are verified," I said, handing the folder to Dante. "I found 3 calculation errors in sections 4 and 9. I've noted them." "Thank you, Adrian," Dante said. His winter coffee scent was sharper than usual stress. "Anything else you need tonight?" I asked. "You should go home," Soren said. He'd ended his typing, was watching me with concern. "You've been here since 7:30. "So have you," I pointed out. "We're the bosses," Lucas said, ending his call. "We're supposed to work late, and I'm your assistant. I work until you don't need me anymore." "We always need you," Dante said quietly. The words hit me harder than they should have. Because he was right. They did always need me. And that was the problem. I would never stop being needed. Which meant I would never have a life of my own. "I'll see you tomorrow," I said. I grabbed my bag and left before any of them could say anything else. I didn't go straight home. I drove around the city for a while, watching people through restaurant windows, seeing them laugh and talk and live lives that didn't revolve around someone else's schedule. When I finally got to my apartment, it was after 10 p.m. The place was small but clean. I'd lived here for 4 years and I still hadn't decorated. There were no pictures on the walls, no personal touches, just furniture and the bare minimum. It could have been a hotel room. I sat on my couch in the dark and realized I couldn't do this anymore. Not because the Blackwells were bad bosses. They weren't. They paid me well. They never yelled. They trusted me completely. But that trust was crushing me. They relied on me for everything. And in becoming everything they needed, I had stopped being anything for myself. To the Blackwell brothers, please accept this letter as formal notification that I am resigning from my position as executive assistant, effective immediately. I stared at those words for a long time. They felt like a death sentence for the only life I knew. But I kept typing. I tried to explain that it wasn't about the work or the pay. I tried to say that I needed to find myself again. I wrote that I was grateful for the opportunities they'd given me, but that I couldn't continue sacrificing my entire existence for their convenience. As I wrote, I could smell them on my clothes. All 3 scents mixed together: coffee and leather and sandalwood. It was a scent combination that usually made me feel safe, grounded. Tonight it just made me feel guilty, like I was betraying them. I finished the letter and read it over 3 times. It was simple, professional. It didn't have any of the emotional weight I was actually feeling. It just said I was done. I saved the file. Then I hit print. The sound of my printer was loud in the quiet apartment. I grabbed a single sheet, folded it carefully, put it in an envelope. My hands were shaking. This was real now. No more delays, no more excuses. I was leaving. I tried to sleep, but my mind wouldn't stop racing. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their faces, saw the moment they'd read the letter, saw their confusion, their hurt, their anger, saw them realizing they'd have to function without me. At 5 a.m., I gave up on sleep, got dressed, made coffee I couldn't drink, grabbed the letter. I drove to the office in the dark, my heart pounding the entire way. The building was completely empty. Even the cleaning crew had finished for the night. I took the elevator up to the executive floor, unlocked their office, went inside. Everything was exactly as I'd left it yesterday. Their desks clean, their files organized, their world perfectly arranged. One last time, I placed the letter in the center of Dante's desk. He'd be the first to arrive, like always. He'd see it immediately. I stood there for a moment, my hand resting on the envelope. This was it. Once I walked away, there was no going back. I thought about staying. Thought about ripping up the letter and pretending I'd never written it. Thought about continuing this way for another year, another 5 years, another decade. But I couldn't. I wouldn't. I left their office and went back to my desk, started clearing out my personal items, the photo of my parents, a few pens I'd bought myself, a coffee mug I'd used for years. That was it. 9 years condensed into a single box. I was almost to the elevator when I heard it. The distinctive ding of the private elevator arriving. My heart stopped. It was only 6:30. They never came in this early. The doors opened. All 3 of them stepped out. And from the look on Dante's face, he was holding my letter. "Adrian," he said, His voice was deadly calm. We need to talk. I clutched my box tighter. I said everything in the letter. You said nothing in the letter, Luca growled. He looked furious. You gave us corporate speak and bullshit. You don't get to do this, Soren added. His voice was quiet, but there was steel underneath. You don't get to run away without explaining. I'm not running. You're running, Dante interrupted. He moved closer, his winter coffee scent sharp with something that might have been panic. You came in early specifically so you wouldn't have to face us. I don't owe you an explanation, I said. 9 years, Luca said. 9 years, Adrian. And you're walking away with a 2-paragraph letter? We deserve better than that. You deserve. I stopped, anger flooding through me. You deserve? What about what I deserve? What about my life, my time, my identity? What are you talking about? Soren asked. I'm talking about the fact that I've given you everything. The words exploded out of me. I gave you 9 years of my life. I wake up thinking about your schedules. I go to bed thinking about your problems. I don't have friends or hobbies or dreams anymore because every single part of my existence is dedicated to making your lives easier. They stared at me. You asked me what I did last weekend. I continued, my voice shaking. I couldn't answer because I spent it catching up on your work. You asked when I last did something fun, and I had no answer because I don't remember what fun feels like. Adrian, Dante started. I'm disappearing, I said. I look in the mirror and I don't recognize myself anymore. I'm not a person. I'm a function. I'm the thing that makes sure you have coffee and clean suits and organized schedules, and I can't do it anymore. I can't keep losing myself just so you three can stay comfortable. The silence was deafening. Come back to the office, Dante said finally. Please, we need to talk about this properly. There's nothing to talk about. There's everything to talk about, Luca interrupted. Please, Adrian, just come back to the office. Hear us out. I should have said no. Should have gotten in the elevator and left. But the way they were looking at me with something that looked like desperation made me hesitate. Fine, I said. But then I'm leaving. We walked back to their office in tense silence. I set my box down on my old desk, followed them inside, and watched as Dante quietly locked the door. What are you doing? I asked, my heart starting to race. Making sure you don't run before we finish this conversation, Dante said. He turned to face me, and his gray eyes were more intense than I'd ever seen them. You're going to listen to what we have to say. All of it. You can't keep me here. We're not keeping you, Soren said softly. We're asking you to stay for 10 minutes. That's all. I crossed my arms. Fine. Talk. The three of them exchanged glances, some silent communication passing between them. Then Dante spoke. You're right, he said quietly. About all of it. We took advantage of you. We relied on you so completely that we stopped seeing you as a person and started seeing you as a resource. We worked you to exhaustion and told ourselves it was fine because you never complained. We made you invisible, Luca added. We made you feel like you didn't matter except for what you could do for us, and that's unforgivable. You deserved better, Soren finished. You deserve to have a life, to have dreams, to be more than just our assistant, and we're sorry. We're so sorry. I stared at them. This wasn't what I expected. I don't understand, I said. Why are you apologizing? I'm the one leaving. Because we don't want you to leave, Dante said. His voice was raw. But not as our assistant. We never want you to be our assistant again. Then what? We want you as our partner, Luca interrupted. Our equal. Our. He stopped, looking at his brothers. Our mate. The word hit me like a physical blow. What? We're in love with you, Adrian, Soren said quietly. All three of us. We have been for years. We just didn't know how to tell you when we were your bosses and you were our employee. That's why we were considering the arranged bonds, Dante added. Not because we wanted them, but because we thought we could never have you, thought you'd never see us as anything but your employers. I couldn't breathe, couldn't process what they were saying. You're serious, I whispered. Completely serious, Dante said. He moved closer. The thought of you leaving, of never seeing you again, of losing you, it's unbearable. We can't let you walk out that door without telling you how we feel. We know we have no right to ask, Luca said. We know we've already taken too much from you, but if there's any part of you that feels the same way, stop, I said, holding up a hand. They went silent. I turned away, my mind spinning. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. They loved me. All three of them. They wanted me. Not as their assistant, as their mate. It was everything I'd secretly wanted for 9 years. Everything I'd never let myself hope for. But it was also terrifying. How do I know this isn't just panic? I asked without turning around. How do I know you're not just saying this because you don't want to lose your perfect assistant? Because if it was about the work, we'd offer you more money, Dante said. More benefits, different hours. We'd try to negotiate like it's a business deal. But this isn't about business, Adrian. This is about the fact that you're the first person I think about when I wake up and the last person I think about before I sleep. It's about the way my chest feels tight every time you look tired, Luca added. The way I want to protect you from everything, including us. It's about how the office felt wrong when you took that day off, Soren said. How nothing feels right when you're not there. Not because you weren't doing your job, but because you weren't there. I closed my eyes, tried to steady my breathing. I can't go back to the way things were, I said. I won't. I'd rather walk away completely than go back to being invisible. We don't want you invisible, Dante said. We want you seen, known, cherished. We want to learn everything about you that we should have learned years ago. We want to give you back the life we took from you. And if it doesn't work? I asked. If we try this and it falls apart, then we let you go, Luca said, with our blessing and our gratitude and enough money that you never have to work again if you don't want to. But if it does work, Soren added softly, then you get 3 alphas who will spend the rest of their lives making sure you never disappear again. I turned to face them. They were all watching me with expressions I'd never seen before. Vulnerable, desperate, hopeful. I've loved you for 9 years, I heard myself say. All of you. I tried so hard not to. Tried to keep it professional. But every time you smiled at me, or trusted me with something important, or just existed in the same space as me, I fell a little harder. All 3 of them inhaled sharply. But I can't be your assistant anymore, I continued. I can't be the person who handles your lives while I lose my own. If we do this, everything has to change. It will, Dante promised. Whatever you need, whatever you want, we'll make it happen. I looked at each of them. Dante with his sharp intelligence and hidden vulnerability. Luca with his fierce protectiveness and surprising gentleness. Soren with his emotional depth and quiet strength. These 3 alphas who I'd served for 9 years, who I'd loved for 9 years, who were looking at me like I was the only thing that mattered. My suppressants, I said quietly. I take heavy-duty suppressants. Have for years. They keep my scent muted, keep my heats completely suppressed. Why are you telling us this? Soren asked, gently. Because if we do this, if we really try this, I want to stop taking them. I want to be fully me. Not the controlled, professional version. The real version. And you need to know what that means. What does it mean? Dante asked. It means you'll smell me, I said. Really smell me. It means my omega instincts will be stronger. It means I'll be more emotional, more vulnerable, more everything. We want everything, Luca said fiercely. All of it. All of you. I took a shaky breath. Okay, I said. Okay, we try this. The relief on their faces was profound. But I have conditions, I added quickly. No more assistant work. We restructure everything. I get actual time off. I get to pursue my own interests. And most importantly, you 3 need to learn how to function without me managing every detail of your lives. Done, Dante said immediately. All of it, Luca agreed. Whatever you need, Soren promised. I looked at them, my heart pounding. I need you to claim me, I whispered. All 3 of them went very still. Adrian, Dante said carefully. You don't have to. We can wait. We can court you properly first. I've waited 9 years. I interrupted. I don't want to wait anymore. I want to be yours. All of yours. Now. Are you sure? Soren asked. I've never been more sure of anything. The air in the room changed. became charged with something electric. I felt my suppressants start to fail under the weight of my emotions, felt my omega pheromones begin to bloom for the first time in years. The scent of rain and wild jasmine and fresh earth filled the room. All three of them inhaled sharply. "Adrian," Dante breathed. "You smell incredible," Luca finished. "Perfect," Soren added. My scent mixed with theirs coffee and leather and sandalwood, wrapping around rain and jasmine and earth until they were completely intertwined. "Please," I whispered. "Claim me." Dante moved first. He crossed the room and cupped my face in his hands, his thumbs brushing my cheekbones. "I, Dante Blackwell, claim you as my mate," he said formally. "Not as my assistant, not as my employee, as my equal, as my partner, as my everything." Then he leaned down and bit me. The claiming bite was on my left shoulder, right where my neck met my collarbone. His teeth sank into my scent gland, and I felt the bond snap into place like a physical thing. Sharp pain. Then overwhelming warmth. Then a connection that felt like coming home. I could feel Dante through the bond. His relief, his joy, his fierce protectiveness, his love. He pulled back, his eyes wild, and licked the bite to seal it. Luca was next. He turned me gently to face him. "I, Luca Blackwell, claim you as my mate," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "Not because you serve us, but because you complete us, because you're the missing piece we didn't know we needed." His bite was on my right shoulder. The same sharp pain, the same warmth, the same overwhelming connection. Through this bond, I felt Luca's intensity, his passion, his desperate need to protect me, his love. He licked the bite and stepped back. Soren was last. He was gentler than his brothers, his touch almost reverent. "I, Soren Blackwell, claim you as my mate," he said softly. "Not for what you can do for us, but for who you are, for the person we've been blind to for too long, for the man we love more than anything." His bite was at the base of my throat, right where my collar would hide it if I wanted. The third bond snapped into place, and I felt complete in a way I'd never imagined possible. Through Soren's bond, I felt his gentleness, his emotional depth, his quiet strength, his overwhelming love. He licked the bite and pulled me into his arms. I stood there surrounded by all three of them, 3 bonds humming in my chest, 3 marks burning on my skin, and I felt whole for the first time in 9 years. No, for the first time in my life. "I can feel you," I whispered. "All of you. We can feel you too," Dante said. "Everything you feel, we feel." "Then you know I mean this," I said. "I love you. All of you. So much." "We love you too," they said together. We stood there in the locked office, wrapped in each other's scents, bonded forever. And I knew that everything really was about to change. 1 year later, I stood at the front of the classroom, watching my third graders file in for the day. They were loud and chaotic and full of energy, and I loved every minute of it. "Mr. Moss, can I be the line leader today?" A little girl named Emma asked. "It's Tyler's turn," I said, "but you'll get your chance on Friday." She pouted but accepted it. Teaching was everything I'd remembered wanting it to be and more. After the claiming, the Blackwells, my mates, had supported me completely in pursuing my teaching certification. I'd spent 6 months in an accelerated program, then another 3 months student teaching before landing this position. It didn't pay anything close to what I'd made as their assistant, but the fulfillment was priceless. The bell rang. Class started. I taught a lesson on fractions, moderated a discussion about our class novel, and helped 3 kids with math they didn't understand. At lunch, I checked my phone. 3 messages. From Dante. "Hope your morning is going well. We hired someone to replace Johnson. You'll like her." From Luca. "Dinner tonight? Soren's trying a new recipe and we're his guinea pigs." From Soren. "I love you. That's all. Just wanted to remind you." I smiled and typed back responses to all 3. The Blackwell brothers had completely restructured their lives after our claiming. They'd hired 5 new staff members to handle the work I used to do alone. They left the office at reasonable hours. They took weekends off. They'd learned how to function without me managing every detail of their lives. And our relationship had flourished because of it. After school, I drove to the house we shared, the beautiful modern home they'd bought, hoping I'd say yes to them. I walked in to find Luca in the living room, playing with our dog, a rescue we'd adopted 3 months ago, and Dante reading on the couch. "Where's Soren?" I asked. "Kitchen," Luca said. "Fair warning, he's in full experimental mode." I found Soren surrounded by ingredients and looking slightly panicked. "The recipe said this would be easy," he said. "What are you making?" "Theoretically? Chicken piccata. Actually? I'm not sure anymore." I laughed and moved to help him. We cooked together, talking about our days. He told me about a difficult client call. I told him about Emma's dramatic reaction to not being line leader. It was domestic and normal and perfect. We ate dinner together, all four of us, talking and laughing and just existing in each other's presence. After dinner, we moved to the living room. I curled up on the couch with a book, Dante beside me working on his laptop, Luca and Soren playing cards. Through our bonds, I felt their contentment, their happiness, their love. This was my life now. Not serving 3 alphas, but being partners with them. Having a career I loved. Having hobbies and interests and time to just exist. Being seen. Being known. Being cherished. "What are you thinking about?" Dante asked, closing his laptop. "About how different everything is now," I said. "Better?" he asked. "Infinitely better." Luca abandoned his card game to join us on the couch. Soren followed. We sat there together, 4 people who'd found each other in the least likely way. "I'm glad you tried to resign," Soren said suddenly. "Me too," I admitted. "Because if I hadn't, we might have kept going the way we were forever. We would have lost you eventually," Dante said. "You were right. You were disappearing, and we were too blind to see it. But you saw it when it mattered," I said. "You locked the door and made me listen. You claimed me when I asked. You gave me the space to become myself again. You saved us." Luca said, "All of us. We were drowning in work and expectations, and we didn't even realize it. You leaving forced us to restructure everything, to actually live instead of just existing. We saved each other," I corrected. Through the bonds, I felt their agreement, their gratitude, their overwhelming love. I'd tried to resign as their assistant, but instead of letting me go, they'd locked the door and claimed me as their mate. And it was the best thing that ever happened to all of us. Thank you for joining Adrian's journey from exhausted assistant to cherished mate. If this story of learning to choose yourself while finding love touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more BL Omegaverse stories. Drop a comment telling me which Blackwell brother was your favorite, Dante's sharp intelligence, Luca's fierce protection, or Soren's emotional depth. Until next time, remember, you're always worth choosing, especially by yourself.